All right, we're live,
How's it going, guys?
and this is the pick. See here.
Might be able. There we go.
There we go. All righty. This is gonna be the last weekend of doing it live. We're gonna have our software back. Should be this week, so we'll be back to our normal videos. But we're gonna be talking about a couple games, one college football game and two NFL games. But our college football games and one we get knocked out first. Florida Georgia was the one we're gonna be talking about, and Georgia won this one 36-17. They had Georgia had a really good game. They caused a lot of turnovers.
Nope.
Jake Fromm had the best game of the season in my eyes.
Nope.
He might have had better statistically against other teams, but not playing real teams in my eyes.
Mhm.
This is the best defense outside of LSU he's played this year, and he's played really well.
Yep.
Swift played well, 104 yards a tub and 12 carries. Fromm had 240 yards and 3 tubs.
Yep.
Number 18, their tight end had a pretty good game. I didn't even know he even was, and he had an impact. On Florida's side, Franks had a kind of a crappy game statistically, but he wasn't getting a lot of help other ways. 100 yards, 105 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Perine didn't do much and had a bad fumble that kind of turned the game to Georgia's favor.
Yep.
So let's get into it. Georgia caused the fumble, scored on that play,
Got a field goal.
and got a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
And just had a lot of Florida had a lot of turnovers in this game, and I think that really ended up costing them. Some were caused by the 2 fumbles in my eyes were caused by Georgia's defense. They play really well, and that interception was just I don't know what the heck Frank was even looking at. And Florida's defense played really well given the circumstances, but at the end of the game, they just kind of just given up, and they got some kind of garbage time touchdowns. But for the most part, Florida's defense played well, and they kept them in it. But I mean, if you're not doing enough on offense, eventually your defense is going to give up or give in, get tired, and that's what kind of happened in my eyes in this game.
Yep.
I still have, I don't have a lot of confidence, but I still have confidence in Dan Mullen to get this Florida program turned around. But a couple of these play calls really kind of questioned to me a little bit. You know, he doesn't have the dudes on the offense just quite yet, so I'm not going to lambast him, but some of these play calls didn't make any sense. They're in their own end zone, and they had this weird Tim Tebow-esque run with the quarterback. He fumbled.
Yep.
I don't know what the heck you're doing there. Some other weird gadget plays I didn't think were good plays, and I don't know. I didn't think it was offensively. That was pretty of a terrible game for Florida on players and the coaches.
Yep.
And Georgia, man, I don't think their defense is as good as it was last year, but they're still pretty good. And offense is maybe getting back to where they need to be. I don't think this Georgia team is going to make it to the playoffs. I don't think they're winning the SEC, but they're still a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
So that's the question: do we see this Georgia team making it to the SEC championship and winning it and making the playoffs?
I could see him winning the SEC the game, but as far as them going to the playoffs, I mean, I can see them if they could win that game. I can see
Well, if they
them.
win, if they win the SEC, they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah. So but that's the thing. If I don't have confidence in them if they make the playoffs, and like I said, that's even if they win that SEC game.
Which I don't see happen at all.
Which is I can see it happening, but then again, I could see it not happening. So, I'm just gonna roll with no. I'm gonna roll with no. They can't win the SEC, and of course, if they don't win that, they're not going to playoffs. But let's just say they do win, and they do make it to the playoffs. I think they're gonna get demolished by whoever they play in the playoffs. I just don't think they're a really good playoff team. I agree with him. I don't even think they're Georgia's good as they were last year. So if they had the team they did last year, I can definitely see them winning the SEC possibly and going playoffs and being a strong contender. But, man, it's a different story, different players, and it's showing that this is definitely not the same Georgia team. But, man, they did pretty solid in this game. Jake Fromm didn't, wow you with no crazy numbers. He did score 3 touchdowns, no picks, which is what you want your quarterback to do. But yeah, he just really made the necessary plays they needed to play, or needed to make. Um, that was the biggest deal for Georgia, or excuse me, Florida. Florida has a really solid defense, but the thing that hurt them the most in this game was they couldn't stop Georgia on third downs, whether it was 3rd and 11, third and 9, like whatever it was, they could not stop them on third down. And if you can't stop teams on the most important down, then you're most likely going to have a rough game, and that's pretty much what happened. Their defense just couldn't get them off, couldn't get themselves off the field on those third downs, and those are important. And 2 of those third downs Georgia scored on. So yeah, man, that was just a huge factor in that game that kind of made what the game was. And another thing was the Florida turnovers. Just too many turnovers. If you're gonna lose a turnover battle, you're most likely gonna lose a game. And yeah, man, and I agree with Adam. They just had some really just goofy plays, and there's those. That's what I told him is if you're gonna do these gadget plays, make sure you got the players that can do stuff out there, or if you don't, just don't do that stuff because it's not gonna work. If that other team does have the players to make that play, then it's gonna look bad and you're gonna lose a lot of yards, and that's what happened. They try those gadget plays and they'll get stuck, 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So that's what happens, man. If you're gonna do those type of plays, make sure you got the players to do that stuff with. And yeah, the score looks way worse than what it was. A lot of those points were garbage time points. It was pretty close actually for the most part. So, Florida stuck in there. They just didn't make the plays to overcome Georgia and win the game. They made a lot of mistakes too. So, yeah, man, good win by Georgia. They just keep rolling, but yeah, man, I just don't see them going any further, and I definitely don't see them making playoffs. But good win.
I can see them making the SEC championship game, but they're not beating Alabama and they're not beating LSU in my eyes.
Yeah.
Which that means they're not going to playoff. They're a good, solid team, but yeah, there's no way in my eyes either one of those things is going to happen. That's all I really got to say about this game. Good win by Georgia.
Yeah.
Florida had a couple of things to figure out.
But Adam is right. They definitely got their coaching situation figured out. I really like their coaches they got, but now it's just now that you got your coach, it's time to get the players there. So
yeah.
If they can get the players there, then Florida might be on the map again.
Alrighty. We're going to NFL now. Green Bay and the Los Angeles Rams. Game we talked about.
Wild game.
LA won this one 29-27. Let me get some stats knocked out right quick. Jared Goff had a pretty solid game, almost 300 yards, 3 tubs. Gurley had an alright game, 114 yards rushing and 81 yards on a tub receiving. Aaron Rodgers had a solid game, not an elite game like he usually plays. Almost 300 yards in a tub. Aaron Jones had almost 100 yards in a tub on 12 carries, and Adams had a pretty solid game as well, 133 yards. Yeah, this is a really good, close game. A lot of these games for the Rams has been that way. Their defense isn't elite, but their defense is good enough. The first half, Green Bay's defense especially really came to play. I was really impressed. They got a lot of pressure on the Rams. They were playing a lot of man, and the receivers couldn't get off. Jared Goff was kind of holding the ball on a little too long. They weren't able to block him consistently. The line was able to block Green Bay consistently as well, so they're getting a lot of sacks. But Sean McVay made some adjustments in the second half, and Gurley, man, got going in the second half. He didn't really do much in the first, and that offense started clicking again. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Ryan's gonna really hit on that point, but you got to finish if you're gonna play this Rams team. Aaron Donald had a really good game, especially in the second half. He really dominated and had 2 sacks. Peters got kind of burnt a little bit in this game by Adams. Linebackers played well. Rams linebackers played well. Sue did okay. He made some impact plays on that safety. Him and one of the linebackers, I can't remember which one, caused that safety, and that was a really good play. Yeah, this is a really good Rams team. I don't think they're going undefeated, but they might. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
But you never know. But was impressed by Green Bay. They got some unfortunate breaks. That fumble by the returner,
Ty Montgomery.
yeah, Ty Montgomery, put him out of the chance of winning this game. I thought A-Rod had a really good chance of winning this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, two really good teams, and I think both of these teams are probably going to be in the playoffs, and they might even play each other again.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed by both, especially Green Bay's defense, especially in the first half. And second half, they needed to make some adjustments, and they did in the counteract Los Angeles Rams adjustments.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, it was like I told him when he came over to watch a game. It's just really it was a tale of two halves. First half was dominated by us. We like he said we were just getting a ton of pressure on Golf, and there was a lot of third down and shorts that they had that we were stopping them on that were huge. They had a 3rd and 1. They ran it with Gurley. We stopped him, which is a hard thing to do on 3rd and 1. That man's a monster. So great stop. I think Blake Martinez came in with a tackle and tackled him a couple yards before he got to the first down. And yeah, man, just really that first half, man, we played really solid. It was looking good for us. We do need to. That's the thing. We need when you play in the Rams and teams like that can, score 30+ points a game. You have to score touchdowns. You can't be kicking field goals. And we were, getting down the field, but the Rams defense wasn't. They were bending, but they weren't breaking. So we were kicking a lot of field goals, and that's the thing, man. You got to finish out and get touchdowns, especially like I said against these top teams that are, scoring 30 and above. They're actually crazy, which is crazy. They're actually 3rd in the league scoring. They're not even first, which is Chiefs and there's Chiefs and the Saints are 1st and 2nd, which is crazy. I figured they're first, but yeah, man, when you get teams like that could score 30+, you have to match them in points, which is we did for the most half, but for the most part, but yeah, they were the Rams were scoring more touchdowns than we were, and we were kicking a lot more field goals than we were touchdowns. So that's really I think that was the difference of this game. That safety definitely helped them in the long run of the game for the Rams. That 2 points, all points matter, and that tells you right there that is a proven fact that all points matter because those 2 points were huge. That's really why they had the 29-27 lead, and yeah, man. Rodgers actually looked really solid. He didn't look too frustrated in the pocket like I kind of figured because I figured Donald and Sue would make it rough, but our offensive line did really well for the most part. Like I said, there's a couple times Donald got a sack on him and on important 3rd downs, which is huge for the Rams. But for the most part in the game, they really stuck to their guns and held that really good line of the Rams for the most part, which is I was proud of. And yeah, man, you give Rodgers time, he'll make you some plays. Yeah, Adams had a really nice game. Really good game by Jones. That's one thing I have to hammer home, and I will keep hammering home until I see a difference. Is they got to run the ball more. Packers have to run the ball more. Aaron Jones just keeps proving more and more in these games that he could be a solid back. I do agree with Adam. I don't think he's a all-around 3rd down back, like all-down back, because he kind of is not that great at blocking people. So he's not really good run blocker or a pass blocker at that point. But yeah, man. But outside of that, he can run the ball. He can catch the ball. So yeah, I think they need to run the ball with him more. And even Jamal Williams, he's a pretty solid back too. So. I understand you got A-Rod as your quarterback, but you gotta help him out. And one way to help him out is have a running game. I think we need to be running it at least 20 to 25 times. He got 12 carries for 86 yards. If no telling if he had 20, 25 carries, no telling how many yards he could have had. So we got to run the ball more and help Rodgers out. Can't just rely on Rodgers all the time. But yeah, man, I'm just happy we stuck it, made it a close game, and almost got the victory. Like I said, I think Ty should have just took a knee right there at the end, but he decided to take it out, got hit, fumbled the ball, and yeah, that was it for us. They ended up running the ball out with Gurley, and smart play, could have easily scored a touchdown, but kind of slowed down and let the guy tackle him, and that was the end of the ball game. But yeah, man, good. That was just a really entertaining game, and pretty much it was a home game for Green Bay. If you were watching or seen any of the game, you all you were hearing was Packers fans like "Go Pack Go" screaming it out. And they showed a lot of times the camera showed a lot of times of the crowd, and just a sea of Packers. So it was a wild game, but really entertaining. But yeah, man, we got to finish. We got to finish. We got to score more touchdowns if we want to climb back in our division and get to the top, because it's right there for our taking. Everybody's right there. The top team, which is I believe is the Bears right now at 4-3. So yeah, man, it's really tossed up, and it could be anybody's division at the end of the season. So even though we're 3-1, we're right there. We're third, I believe. The only team that's worse than us is the Lions right now. But yeah, from 1 to 3 could easily at the end of the season could be number 1. So we definitely got a shot. But yeah, that was a very fun game, and since he's a Rams fan, I'm a Packers fan. It was really fun. So
Yeah, it was.
that was an awesome game. But yeah, we just got to finish. But a good win for the Rams.
Bears are in first in the division.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Bears. Yeah.
Okay, and
It was Minnesota, but they lost tonight. So.
Yeah. All right, and this is gonna be our last game. If I can-
Speaking of Minnesota,
Yeah, Minnesota's gonna be the last game.
it's at the very bottom. It should be.
Damn stupid. Where's that? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Speaking of Minnesota, we got Minnesota and New Orleans.
Alrighty. Minnesota lost this one 20-30. Saints win. This will be the last game we talk about. 30-20. Saints win this one. Drew Brees had a okay game. He didn't really do much. He didn't really need to do much. 120 yards, tub, and an interception. Ingram had an okay game, 63 yards, 13 carries. Thomas, 81 yards. He had an okay game as well. Kirk Cousins, yard-wise, he had a good game. Almost 360 yards, 2 tubs, and a pick. Murray had a 56 yards and a tub. Diggs and Thielen both had 100 yards and touchdowns.
Balled out.
So they both had really good games. That's the thing about Kirk Cousins. I like Kirk Cousins. I'm a little bit of a defender, but he's either first Cousins, he's either third Cousins. And what I mean by that is either he is really good or he is really whack and turns the ball over. That's what's his main concern. And he was third Cousins in this game. He turned the ball over. That interception return for a touchdown was on him, and that was on Diggs. Miscommunication to a certain degree. Diggs should have kept on running and man, but he didn't. He just stood there, and Kirk Cousins thought he was still running, and he threw the pick, which was kind of a rookie mistake. And he's not a rookie anymore.
Way past that.
And another turnover he had was a bad one as well. He almost had another turnover, that fumble, that his knee was down. He got lucky on that one.
Yeah, lucky on that.
Yeah, then this is Kirk Cousins, third Cousins came to play, and first Cousins didn't. Thielen and Diggs had a really good game. I was impressed. Both of them were eating Apple and Williams alive. They were kind of trying to stay away from Lattimore as much as they could.
Yeah.
And yeah, they both had really good games. Treadwell had an okay game. Outside of that fumble by Thielen, he had a really good game as well. They didn't run the ball enough in my eyes. 13 carries is ridiculous. They need to run the ball more, and this game was close.
Murray's having a good season.
So I don't understand what's wrong with these NFL teams. If it's working,
Stick to it.
stick to it. And they just want to throw 1,000 times, and I don't get it. This defense for Minnesota actually played really well. The score doesn't indicate that because they turned the ball over a lot. But for the most part, if you hold Drew Brees under 150 yards, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You hold Michael Thomas under 100 yards, that's impressive. So they played well, and they didn't have their arguably the best corner, arguably the best player in Rhodes. So this Viking team's not dead, but they lose a couple more, they will be. So they need to right the ship again. They need to get some things figured out. They need to run the ball more. And the other thing is their line was really struggling, especially the right tackle against Cam Jordan. He was just eating them alive.
Him and the center Sheldon was going against Sheldon Rankins, and he was getting eaten alive too.
Yeah, I don't understand why they weren't chipping Jordan. You got a rookie right tackle against arguably one of the best defensive linemen in the league.
Yep.
And that's a bad recipe for
for disaster.
Exactly.
Right there.
So I don't know. Vikings need to make some in-game adjustments in my eyes to offset some of the inaccuracy, the bad play by the offensive line. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins got to be better. You need to be first cousin, not third cousins. If he's not, then they're going to have a little bit better version of Case Keenum. And he's not going to take him super far because that Vikings defense is better, but they're not elite like they were last year.
Yeah. What I take away from this game and why the Saints got this victory is mainly turnovers that they got and 2 field position over because of those turnovers. Field position, that's what killed Minnesota. That's why, Breeze doesn't have a whole lot of numbers, only 120 yards. That's why you're thinking, well, how do they have 30 points? He only has 120 yards, Field position, man. Field position killed Minnesota, and they took the Saints took advantage of that. A lot of their touchdowns that they scored were really short touchdowns. Alvin Kamara scored a touchdown, I think, at the 1 or 2 yard line. He jumped over the big old pile and kind of landed really hard, which I hope he's okay. And yeah, man, just really short touchdowns, and the turnover was killing Minnesota. And yeah, man, I didn't think New Orleans. I knew New Orleans' defense was good, but I didn't think they were going to play this good, and they did. They were just eating that line of Minnesota apart, man. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Cameron Jordan was absolutely going nuts. Sheldon Rankins was eating their center alive.
Yeah.
Stuffing the run or either sacking Cousins. So it was really the tell of a good defense and field position for New Orleans is what won in this game. Yeah, man, just third Cousins came out, like he said, man. You can't have those mistakes. My question to you, Adam, how far do you think these wide receivers, this is really where I'm taking it, the wide receivers are going to drag this Minnesota team? How far do you think they're going to get them? Think they can get them to the playoffs, or they're going to fall short?
I don't know, honestly, because I wouldn't say drag. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, I think. So I wouldn't say drag. But he can't be third Cousins, or
that's what I'm saying.
If he's third Cousins, then yeah, they're definitely not making playoffs. This Northern Division is kind of loaded in a way. Really, it depends on how the Packers play on defense. If they're gonna play like they did today, that's gonna be really tough for the Vikings to make the playoffs. And can Khalil Mack come back and stay healthy?
Yeah,
because Mitch Trubisky played okay. He ran the ball a lot this game. And I think Bears finally decided to figure out what they need to do with him. They're not going to be able to have him as a normal quarterback. They need to run him as much as they can, kind of like a college offense. RPOs, run. I think they need to run kind of like what Texas runs, University of Texas college football team. They like a lot of sweeps and quarterback runs. They need to start doing those. They did that in this game they played. I was impressed by how Biscuit played that game. So anyway, back to the Vikings. They have a shot, but that defense has got to get healthy.
That too. And
Kirk Cousins can't be third Cousins.
Yeah, the reason why I say that is, you take those 2 guys away. Say they're not on this team, they're hurt, whatever the case may be. You take those 2 guys away, there ain't much left. Mm-hmm. They got Treadwell, and he's so up and down, you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Because he played okay in this game. He had a really good catch in this game.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph is nowhere near what he was when he came in the league.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of that end zone guy, really.
Over the middle as well.
And the biggest point is if you look at what happened today, Kirk Cousins did not play his best, and they still had 100+ yards. That's how good these receivers are. Like they can have Kirk Cousins have a bad day and still their guys can ball out.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think they can drag. You know, it was a proven point of Case Keenum. You know, when they had Case Keenum, it was a really good looking team, and you know, from what he's doing in Denver, it's easily saying that they carried him because I seen a statistic today that Case Keenum literally has at least one interception in every game so far. And he's not playing well. Denver, his offense overall ain't playing well. He's not playing well at all. So it's just showing that really these two receivers, man, are drug him. And I'm not saying they're necessarily dragging him as much as they did Case Keenum, but you know it's kind of looking that way too. And that just tells you how good these two guys are. And right away before I wrap it up for me. Congrats to Adam Thielen. He tied Megatron with 8 consecutive games with at least 100 yards receiving. So that should tell you how good these guys are. And yeah, salute to Adam Thielen. That's a huge accomplishment, especially being an undrafted player. You know, kind of coming out of nowhere type player. And yeah, man, he's up here. You know, breaking records, doing big numbers. You know. He's my buddy's age right here. He's, you know, if like he said, if he came in the league maybe 4 or 5 years sooner, who knows, man? He literally might be one of the best. I mean, he is now, but what I'm saying is his stats will be right there with the elite receivers that are out there now. And but yeah, man, if he keeps balling out the way he is, his numbers are just going to keep climbing, and people are going to have to consider him one of the best in the game. So. Yeah, man, salute to him for that accomplishment. That was wild. I didn't even know that, and yeah, man, he's been balling out.
Yeah, I already think he's a top 5 receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think he's the best receiver in the league right now. So far this season.
Definitely debatable, but yeah.
So far this season. But anyway, yeah, second one he said, all those things. Case Keenum is not playing well. I think he's kind of not even an average quarterback in my eyes. Koufos is in the media think that Baker Mayfield's ceiling is Case Keenum, which is ridiculous. I think
his rookie year is already looking better.
I think Baker Mayfield is as good as Case Keenum, and I think this is going to be the worst Baker Mayfield's going to be. Speaking of that game, we're not going to really talk about it because we didn't really get to watch it, but we watched a little bit of it. Baker didn't play that great. Antonio Brown played well, and Browns needed a lot of things to figure out.
Yep.
But the last thing we're going to talk about before we get out of here is rest in peace the victims of the Pittsburgh shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tragedy. We're not going to get into politics about it, but it's just an unfortunate thing.
Some senseless crap, really.
Yeah, and this is an unfortunate thing. And as a country, we need to get better. Again, we're not going to get into politics and how we truly feel about the situation, but
it's just a sad situation, and you know, when things happen like that, we do like to chime in and say, you know, our respects and our condolences. But, yeah, we don't want to get any further into that. But, yeah, man, just rest in peace to those people. Some senseless crap.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all I got to say about this week. Pretty interesting, some good football games. And glad you guys watch our videos. Thank you for the subscriptions, and thank you for the views.
And we'll see you on the next one, guys.
All right.